So Dirk, tell me a little bit about the Anderson World Golf Championships held here.
Well, the Anderson World Golf Championships was a unique format. It was a match play format, and when they first put it together, they had 4 regionals around the country, and the champions of each of those regionals would then meet at the end of the year in Scottsdale at Greyhawk and play in the finals. We were fortunate the first 3 years of the championship to host one of those regional finals. In '95 we hosted U.S. regional final, which Mark McCumber won, and then the following 2 years we hosted the international finals. And you can see behind me Greg Norman, pictured here in 1996. He was our 1996 international regional champion. Unique format, like I said, a very limited field, playing 18 holes of match play. They played the river course. I would say we had probably 5,000 to 6,000 spectators each day for this. It was a televised event because the field was so small, we really couldn't get a large amount of spectators on the property. But it was very exciting. It was really the first opportunity for tour players to experience the Kohler golf facilities. And I do remember comments by some of the players, ribbing Pete and Herb about, how difficult the golf course was and things like that. But then when you went out there and saw them play it, they scored pretty well. So it was just a typical ribbing that Pete usually gets from tour players about how difficult his golf courses are. But when they play them, they actually score pretty well on them.
What are your top 3 memories from those Anderson World Golf Championship years?
They're a little bit of a blur, but I remember specifically watching some of those players hit shots that I didn't think were possible on some of these holes. I'm like, that's a different way to play that hole. I'd never thought about playing in that hole that way. I remember specifically Greg Norman and his caddy, Tony, talking about feet. I'm like, what? They're talking about feet. It's like, he wasn't talking about hitting shots to a yard. He was talking about like 100. I hit my 6-iron 182 yards in 1 foot. I mean, that blew my mind. I was like, I'm lucky if I can hit a 6-iron within a 5-yard range, and he's talking about down to the foot. So it was my first experience seeing tour players up close and hearing them talk about their games. That was probably my biggest memory from that. Another memory is seeing the Kohler golf courses on TV for the first time, which was just a weird experience. I mean, it's where you work and play every day, and then to see it on TV was just kind of surreal to me. Those are probably my biggest memories of those events.
And the 1998 U.S. Women's Open, won by Surrey Pak.
Yeah, boy, there's a lot of memories from that. It was such a memorable event. First of all, she was a rookie. She was only 20 years old, and what I remember about that really was, you can see it in the pictures behind me, Jenny Shishirporn, the amateur that tied her for the lead after 72 holes, made that 40-foot putt on the 18th hole. I was standing on the green when she did that, and she put her hand over her mouth and just couldn't believe that she had made it. I remember that specifically. I also remember Surrey Pak on the 18th hole during the playoff, taking her shoes off and getting down into the water hazard to hit a ball out of the water hazard. She needed to save par on that hole, I believe, just to extend the playoff. I remember that. And then I think a memory that I have was meeting Nancy Lopez during that time. Nancy, a great ambassador for the women's game and golf overall. She had been here a couple weeks earlier with her family playing. You could tell this championship was really, really important to her. She really prepared for it, and then she got here and she just did not play that well. And I remember her walking down the 18th fairway after the Friday round, just kind of waving the white flag. Very gracious though, because she didn't make the cut, but that sort of surrender gesture, and then this big smile that she had on her face. She couldn't have been more gracious, even in a time when probably wasn't her happiest time on the golf course. So those are my 3 biggest memories.
And in 2012, we had Na-yeon Choi win the U.S. Women's Open.
Right. Another South Korean. What I remember about that championship was first initially, the USGA coming out to set up the golf course about a year prior, I got to walk the golf course with the USGA, and looking at how they're going to set up the golf course just kind of boggled my mind. It kind of gave you an idea of how golf has evolved in the 14 years since we had the last championship. In 1998, I think we had it set up at 6,400 yards for the ladies. They were pushing 69 to 7,000 yards for this championship. Just for the sheer difference in distance that they're going to set it up, I thought was just mind-boggling to me. Then the other things I remember, Na-yeon Choi, another South Korean again, along with Sae Pak, talking about how 1998 was really the catalyst for her to get into the game of golf. And if she hadn't been watching the championship at Blackwolf Run in 1998 and watching Sae Pak, she probably never would have picked up a golf club. So that was kind of a neat little tie-in that she was able to make, and probably most of the South Korean players that were here had very similar experiences.